Hello, everybody. It is my absolute pleasure to chat to these extraordinary, talented gentlemen about the film that you've all just watched on wonderful IMAX. Writer, director, and producer of One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson. And we know him from his incredible performances in the likes of The Revenant, Wolf of Wall Street, Gangs of New York. And now, though, he will forever be in our hearts as Bob Ferguson, Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio and Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a big screen, but it's just the perfect place for your film to be shown on, Paul. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to start because it's so lovely coming in and the tribute to Adam at the end of the film, and he was really a big part of the reason that you guys ended up working together on this film and you finally getting this story out there. Is that a fair point to make?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. Let's start with why you guys wanted to work together. And I know it's been percolating for a while and stuff, but what was it that you both kind of felt and saw in each other's work, I guess, that was like, yeah, I want to work with him. I want to work with him. Is it one thing or is it a combination of things?
What year was this boy's life? What year was it?
Oh boy.
I think it was 1992.
Wow.
And I saw this young man on the screen, no older than me, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Really, that's not a joke. That's serious. And then I saw somebody that was like, this is the best acting I've ever seen. This seems like a kid. This seems like a person, not like a child actor. This is a fully formed performance against Robert De Niro, And then the funny thing is that as both of our careers were starting, we have somebody in common in John C. Reilly, one of Leo's first movies with Gilbert Grape, with John. And so there was a mutual connection there. And so obviously my impulse to work with him has been ever since I saw him. I became aware of him. And it didn't work out on Boogie Nights. And it's kind of wild that it took so long, but it also feels so right that it's as if it's 25 years in the making, and just the kind of desire to do it together and created this feels very right. And Adam being another mutual connection, knowing us individually and pushing us, saying like, I'm telling you, don't wait. You guys are going to love to work together. And of course, it was absolutely true.
Did you write Bob for Leo?
Yes. Who else?
When did he tell you this? I mean, what was the sell or the conversation about this role, this film? And I know that you've been talking about it, over a period of time, but how did he sell this to you?
There is no sell. I've been in high anticipation to be able to collaborate with him. Like he said, we met on Boogie Nights. I went off to do Titanic, and then I just got to watch his career unfold as one of the seminal filmmakers of my generation. I actually was so in love with Boogie Nights when I saw it. It was just such an experimentation of so many different, styles all at once, and the way he took, what was essentially the rejects of society and made them heroic and people, and made you feel emotionally invested in their journey. And I remember playing that soundtrack over and over again in my car, because back then we had CDs. So, but CD, and I just would kind of have the blues, about that movie, because how much, and then to watch, these incredible films that have unfolded before my eyes, that each one of them, I said this earlier, but, Paul doesn't underestimate his audience. He allows that element of the unknown and the ability for you to submerge yourself in his worlds and his characters, and extract what you want from it. He doesn't push a narrative or a theme or anything onto you. You get to just absorb his films. And so there was no sell at all. It was it was a series of conversations that we had that led to this, and I was eager to do it. And if he wanted me to really do any character in his films, I would have done it.
Paul, I want to talk about the script, because the script is so many things. It's these extraordinary characters, each of them are just so rich, but it's also the kind of the things that aren't in the obvious part of the script. And we were talking about Perfidia's character and how she she disappears kind of at a certain point in the film, but she doesn't really, and how you write that, in terms of the presence of someone who's not physically there within the story. But then on top of that, the tone of it, in terms of it's an action film, it's funny, it's dramatic, all these kind of different layers of it. How do you write something like that?
Yeah, well, I love to talk about that, to talk about the perfidia of it all, is to talk about the structure of the movie. This idea. I think I messed around with the structure of this movie for so long, like not really knowing how to tell the story. Do I start with our hero, what to me is Willa? I mean, Bob and Willa are our heroes. That's our centers. Like, do you start with that? Do you do flashbacks? All this kind of stuff. Somewhere along the way over the years, I remember seeing Les Miserables, which is the great. I think the Frederick March version is my favorite, with Charles Laughton. And that has a very similar thing where you have this crazy first act and it's its own movie right there. But really, it's just a setup. It's a setup for the main event, which is, what happens 15, 20 years later when the past starts lurking back into your life, and I was like, that's the way to do it. So to tell the story of Bob and Perfidia, really Perfidia, as a setup for Willa. So what happens when the sins of these wild parents, are laid in the lap of this child, and how she's going to have to pay for it. She's going to have to kind of wrestle with the damage that they've done. Maybe he's tried to protect her from, to try to keep her from, to try to create some false narrative that your mom was a hero and all this kind of stuff. Is that they can't outrun it, So that, in terms of writing, once I kind of landed on that structure, so easier said than done. How do you do that well? You go and you find Tiana Taylor, to create an impression of this very exciting but very volatile, her own worst enemy kind of character that you're rooting for, but kind of can't get out of her own way, and makes a series of decisions that now, her daughter is going to end up paying for. And to see him, stuck, that 16 years later, here's this poor guy, and he's just brokenhearted and kind of flatlined from what she's done to our story, or how she's introduced us in the story.
How important was the casting of Willa?
You know what I mean? You got to get a good Willa, otherwise you don't have a movie. You have to. And so imagine our delight to meet Chase Infinity, who's, I think we can all look forward to her future and to see her on movie screens, because she's a natural talent. It's exciting to think about her future and to think about working with her. Obviously, you're looking for somebody. Yes, you have a specific thing to fill. You are looking for a certain vulnerability but a certain strength. That and a kind of fierceness that has to be there. If her mom's Perfidia, she's going to be her mother's daughter, right? And Chase had all of that. And a physicality that was very strong too, her martial arts ability and her physicality. When you finally see her get out of that car and run and take agency over her own story, play offense in her own story, it's quite thrilling. I remember shooting it thinking, this is really exciting. She's, with the story structure like this, you have a character who's kind of she's playing defense. She's just being pushed from one place to the other, and you're kind of waiting for her to emerge. And when she does,
it's the strength of her performance in those scenes where she's kind of toe to toe with yourself and Leonardo DiCaprio, that's you, and Sean Penn.
Yeah.
And Sean Penn, and it's extraordinary. And she's that church sequence is like
the DNA test.
Whoa.
I know. Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah, and she does.
She's been here forever. She's just got this.
That's a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, to think she does it all kind of handcuffed in a chair, that she kind of takes him on with, zip tied in the chair to go right up
Yeah.
against him.
Where she shouts, "Who are you?" at the end. You know, at the end, just that the delivery of that is amazing. You guys did quite a lot of kind of work before the cameras started rolling. How important is that for you, Leo, in terms of not just finding those relationships with, you know, whether it be with Willa or with Perfidia, but also for you, you know, in terms of Bob and finding his journey and where he is?
It was very important in a lot of ways. It kind of reminded me of when during Taxi Driver, De Niro was meeting young Jodie Foster to just get comfortable with her, and we got to do a lot of these moments of workshops together, figuring out this dynamic of a man that's completely detached, paranoid, does not know how to relate to his daughter, is desperately trying to connect with her, but lashes out in anger and a multitude of different emotions. But her sort of secret life, the idea that she has a phone, that she's defying her father, that she doesn't believe in these stories that he's telling her. But all that was formed through these workshops. And then I got to spend a lot of time with her in Northern California, just sort of hanging out with her. And when we found that location, I really, Bob sort of came into fruition for me. We found this little house. We looked at 10 different homes, and we finally found Bob's house, and we just sort of settled into the living room, and that dynamic just happened very naturally.
How important is all that, you know, the physicality of the character, both in terms of your physical performance, you know, the way that he kind of exists in those scenes and the kind of slightly bumble nature of him, but also the costume, you know, what was the journey to that costume? Because it's kind of iconic now. I mean, I saw like 6 people at Halloween just where I live dressed up as Bob. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, he's got an iconic look now. But what was the journey with you know, what, you know, it's almost like it's his uniform. It's his superhero costume in a way. It's like
Yeah, it's the flawed protagonist superhero outfit, and I think I had more conversations about my costume on this than anything I've ever had in my life, and it really was baked into Paul's writing. What happens to a guy that's watching Battle of Algiers, getting stoned at home, that's paranoid, that just has to go and keep going? And there was an iteration. And it has a lot to do with my character, how well he was prepared. There was a poncho, a rain suit that he was going to, sound guy said no to that. So we had him in his robe. And he never took anything off because he's like a hound dog going after his daughter. And then I had this dream. Sometimes I have dreams about things. And I just had the dream of these optical glasses that I saw my grandparents wear, where they had their reading glasses and they put these giant sunglasses on them. And that, to me, kind of related to Boba Fett or a Star Wars character in a way. It just kept on. There was a lot of different conversations.
What's up? There's a Bob Ferguson in the audience right there.
hey,
All right. Like, where's Waldo? Oh, that's amazing.
But the idea that he would just keep going, and that whatever he was wearing was secondary because he had one singular thing on his mind, and that was he could get his daughter back.
I want to talk as well about some of those scenes that you have that one scene with Sean Penn, which is, you know, that in itself is a really clever decision, that it's just one scene between these two characters. What was the choice? But why just one scene? Why this one moment for them?
I only had a good idea for one scene. I didn't have any other good. Yeah, it's funny because in a way maybe you don't even need it, but you do need it. You need to get the sense between the two of them that there's you know, there's a hunter and there's a hunted, you know, and it comes just after Perfidia has left. Both of them kind of at a loose end. Bob trying to take care of the baby, buying baby formula. Lockjaw thinking, you know, I've got to insert myself here and let this fucker know, you know, whatever it is, he's just so fucking weird, Lockjaw. But it was really exciting we went into a supermarket that we didn't shut down, and we just kind of shot the two of them. Yeah. And so
it was a fully working supermarket.
How did you do that?
With customers that had no idea what was going on.
The lady at the counter that was in the checkout thing started taking pictures of Leo in the middle of the first couple takes, and he was like, "Are we really not going to shut this down?" I said, "Well, she'll stop eventually." She did. She got bored, and then it was just sort of like, yeah, we were outside of Sacramento, and it really just it kind of put a flavor on it that was unsettling and created
Yeah.
a little bit of chaos. We only needed to get just a few moments between them, but it was better to not have it too refined. And it was, I mean,
Amazing.
if you're a director and you get to have Sean and Leo in a scene together,
In a
yeah,
supermarket.
it's a good day.
That's what he likes best, controlled chaos. It's
Yeah, I
true.
heard Sean say on the script, it said chaos TBC was on one.
TBD, to be
TBD,
determined.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to leave a little room to discover some chaos.
How much did Sean what was the collaboration with Sean to that character, and how much did he bring to Lockjaw?
Well, he brought Sean Penn, which was more than enough, Obviously, Sean, what you get is you get a tremendous actor. You also get a director. He's such a terrific director. So he has the mind of a director, and he's been doing it for so long. He's such a terrific collaborator. But Sean is his awareness of military culture, and whether he's been in a lot of military films, but with his organization Core, he's constantly on the ground with a lot of military NGOs, things like that. So it's in the kind of fabric of his life a little bit. He's so close to that world that he could understand these guys a little bit. It's a heightened version, certainly, of something, and he brought, as you can see, it's like something else. It's somebody he's fragile. He's fucking, and it makes him very scary. It makes him very volatile and very pent up and clearly very confused. So he can bring a lot of humanity, and he brings a lot of humor to it too, without ever stepping over a line that makes it goofy or caricature or something. You're always like, you can do a thing that great acting can do, is that sometimes you actually feel quite sympathetic for him for a brief moment. You might go like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Why are you behaving like this? So.
Talking about that similar thing of the two phone call scenes, which are brilliant. The kind of rhythm and the pace of that dialogue is extraordinary, both in terms of kind of how you write in that, but you're writing it and performing it in a way that isn't crossing either of those lines, like you were talking about it being funny, but it being dramatic. And those scenes, I think, are really important too. We laugh a lot, but we also understand the kind of the absurdity of the situation he's in, but also the drive of him, that this is coming from such a true place, and the determination to find his daughter. I'm interested in writing that, but then also working with Paul and filming those scenes, and how much you improvised, if you did, and kind of finding the right tone for those moments.
There was some improvising, but a lot of it was written, and it's this core singular idea that, I've said this over and over again, but Paul takes one good idea and expands it. He zooms in on it. And the fact that you get this revolutionary that you think is going to use all the tactics at his disposal to get his daughter back immediately can't get past customer service, and he's too stoned to remember the password. Why didn't you write it down? I don't know. You had the backpack. He's completely incapable of getting past the first hurdle. And that singular idea kind of dominated most of my character. But in thinking about it, we watched a lot of films in preparation for this movie. There was a book, Days of Rage, which is all about revolutionaries and them trying to pick up the pieces from their past, the guilt that they felt, trying to assimilate themselves into society. We watched Lion in Winter. We watched Running on Empty. But I got to, when I was thinking about those phone calls, if there was anything, it was, Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon. I watched that quite a few times, for the intensity of that character trying to save the one person that he loves. And but a lot of it is credit to the ecosystem that Paul puts in place. It's a micro unit when you're on set. It feels intimate. It feels like everyone's sort of cheering for you, and I don't know. It makes you as an actor feel incredibly comfortable.
Is it you know, talking about those real situations, you talk about the supermarket being kind of one extreme, but, you know, filming in real houses and real places and stuff as well. What does that add and what does that give you as a kind of bedding things in, I guess, a truthfulness, I guess, in a way? Does it help with that?
A lot. I mean, we had ex-military on set. We had, corrections officers. The woman that I spoke to was a real corrections officer. The nurses that were there, the people that were the shop owners, really were a family unit that really had a shop there. We're kind of pushed into these environments and these amazing locations that he was able to find for almost a year of scouting that I'd never seen, and I'm a California resident. Borrego Springs, Eureka, all of the stuff. You sort of start to meet people that actually, have some connections to these characters, and things start to make sense. And as soon as Benicio arrived, and he came with a cacophony of incredible specificity and ideas for who his character was, we were kind of pushed into this panicky vortex. And as Benicio said, we kind of had to be leaders for them too. So talking to them about what the scene was about and what our goal was and what we're actually doing, which made it make more sense for us too. So it was like this concentric circle of learning for all of us. And I think it even infused this incredible adrenaline and intensity to all of the stuff that we had to do being on those locations.
We all want a sensei in our life. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. I know.
The little dance, was that in the script? Is that
No,
Benicio?
God, no. That's him. That's the
my God,
magic of
amazing.
Benicio del Toro.
Then
Oh my.
Sensei does a little dance.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
No, he just he came up with that. He realized, like, look, I gotta really show them that I'm a good hombre, and I just gotta make sure they know I don't have any weapons, and I'll just do my little dance, and yeah.
It's funny as I'm thinking about working with, because we shut down production for 2.5 months to wait for Benicio to play Sensei Carlos because he was doing Phoenician Scheme, and we knew there was just nobody else to play that role, and it was kind of a rushed prep for him, and he came with, like I said, tremendous specificity of who Sensei was. But I don't think I've ever automatically fit into the shoes of a relationship with two characters so immediately. He had that calm presence. He knew who Sensei was compared to Bob's manic. And the first day on set, I just felt, I know who these guys are. And it's rare when you get that with an actor. Usually there's some stumbling blocks, but he was Sensei from the moment he arrived, and I just got to react off of that,
Yeah.
off of those ocean waves.
Paul, I want to celebrate how kind of beautiful this is and your storytelling and your choices of how you shot as well, because it's such a big part of how we react to this film. And that's everything from that scene with Perfidia, you know, when she's saying goodbye and the kind of the one shot, but then that incredible scene where you're going through with Benicio, you know, through his kind of facility, to the end scene, you know, and in terms of you make it look very easy in terms of filming some hills, and but the idea that there's so much detail in that as well, and also the choices and on what you shot on as well. And I've just loved for you to talk a little bit about your storytelling and your kind of visuals.
Well, yeah, I would say, obviously, hopefully everybody knows we've tried to scream it from the mountaintops that we shot this film in an ancient format called VistaVision, which was a large format from the 50s. Great format to work in, blows up really well to this screen, IMAX. North by Northwest was shot with, with Searchers, great films. Anyway, but that at a certain point can't matter, right? You have a story to tell and you have to follow these characters. And there's so much story to tell in this that maybe it was, where are we supposed to look? What's the important information? What's important right now? Sometimes it's nice for some visual flair moments, but most of the times you better get right back to the main event, which is following these people and dedicate. And there's so much to pack in that what that gives you is a visual language of this very kind of in I don't want to say pedestrian, but it's like it's formal and it's clear. think it's bedtime, maybe. Your bedtime. That's my bedtime reminder. When it goes off like that, it's fine.
Or take your pills.
Exactly, or take your pills. Yeah.
Language.
Visual language. We were in so many different locations, and so we would move every couple days or every couple weeks. So it was really about not trying to be gourmet, trying to be practical, trying to shoot fast when we could, and keep it. There's one goal, is to create an environment for the actors. So don't take too long lighting, don't overlight it, be simple, be beautiful, be pedestrian, whatever is required. That's kind of as we approached it. Yeah, the worst thing in the world, I think, for an actor is like you're in the middle of a scene and then you say like, okay, come back in 2 hours, and maybe we'll shoot again. Like it's like you're just getting warmed up. You want to be able to shoot. So being able to shoot quickly is important. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Kinda ish.
I want to talk. I do want you to talk a little bit about that end scene though, because it's a
The
physical.
hills.
It's a
Yeah.
physical response watching it, and you do feel a little bit car sick watching it, don't you? Did anybody? Yeah.
Well, you're in the
There we
front
go.
row, of course.
It's
That is
you
a
found
road.
you found it.
We found it. We were driving from Borrego Springs, which is the location we found where Lockjaw's car was going to launch off. And we found another location on the border of California and Arizona, which is where they're going to take Willa to do her off by the Colorado River there. And on the road going there, on the route to take there, we were on these hills, which you could kind of feel a collective quiet in the car. It was me and Flo and Adam, and we were like, this is kind of scary. As you're approaching, the crest of those hills, we're going 80 miles an hour just on these, think there's a blink of an eye. If something's here, we're in trouble. So I just put my phone on the dashboard of the car and was trying different focal lengths and seeing what it was like. And it was like, okay. And then we scouted the other location. Then we drove back to go home. And we all met in the bar later that night. And we were like, I think this could be really good, right? Let's sort of map it out. And then we just we mapped it all out and thought about it and kind of got the maps out and got all the pictures and the videos and just thought, this is before we discovered that, we had a good old fashioned, just traditional, straight line. I guess it tells you that doing the work, driving around, hoping, praying to the movie gods that something will come your way. They'll deliver to you if you do the work,
But it's that idea as well, the kind of the pristineness that's involved in terms of looking in the
Timing.
rear mirror and seeing, that's kind of.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like, beer pong or something, getting it right. To get the choreography was very challenging to get as you're coming up over a rise, to get one car to drop and another one to emerge. Whatever your skill level is, there's still a kind of just close your eyes and cross your fingers that it happens. And we would get it, and we got it, and so it was challenging in that way. Lots and lots of hours of footage just to get it right. But yeah, cutting it
Edit
together.
must have been fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it's fun. And really went to see it all come together. Maddening to shoot, but amazing to see it come together.
What was the, in terms of going into the edit with the footage that you had and how, kind of carving out your final movie from that edit?
Yeah.
What was that experience?
It fell in pretty easily. I would say the things that we worked on the most were the first half hour, 45 minutes, the Perfidia story. That was 5 minutes that we took out of that, was just how to get the pace of that right. It can be alienating for an audience because you can't quite get your footing. She's very unreliable. She betrays everybody. She's making crazy decisions, and you're kind of holding on for dear life. So we were really measuring out just how to get that story right, leading up to that moment of kind of officially starting our story by seeing Willa and her face for the first time. We spent a lot of time working on that, and then just a lot of time showing it to friends and showing it to family and feeling the room and seeing the pace of things and seeing, for instance, you ask about the dance with Benicio. Foolishly, there was a cut that we had that didn't have that little dance, that just started with him getting arrested, and then it was like, wait, this is going really well. Why don't we have that little dance he did in there? You know, you learn things from showing it to your friends and your family,
Yeah.
showing it to him, collaborating with him. It's nice when he can come back in, or Benicio, they've been away from it for 6 months, and it's nice to kind of share it with them and go like, what do you see? Does it feel like it felt when we were there? You know, and it's nice to have a reminder. So we say like, wow, there was that one thing we did. Because yeah, you can get lost in the weeds in it. You're kind of counting on collaborators coming back in and going, you're on the right track, or don't forget this or that,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, that's kind of standard how we do it, you know? But also to your point, I'm sorry about the editing of the hills. It was very important early on. We sent it right to the sound department and right to Johnny, you know, so that both of us were all working together in unison on that sequence, because it's really a three-headed monster of those three things working together.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things. They'd have these pop-up daily sort of events at the end of the night where the entire crew would see the dailies, and he had a lot of Johnny Greenwood's score already baked into that, so we got to see and hear the music. And in a lot of ways, it helped, I think, with the performance, because you feel the intensity of the chase. And when you see Lockjaw's ominous forces ascending on this tiny little urban town, you're like, and you start to hear that music, you're like, oh my, it started to up the game for me. Just watching the driving sequences, you know, as an actor, I was like, oh my God, you know, the dark side is coming.
Yeah.
They're coming to get us.
It's extraordinary, Johnny's score, just on that, the notion of how weaved it is into narrative and character and emotion, like the scene at the end with the trust devices, of these kind of two sounds that when they come together, the melody
Yeah.
is a melody rather than it being two separate.
Yeah, the idea being individually they are just making weird noises, but together they make something beautiful. Yeah, if you need something like that, call Johnny Greenwood. He'll give you really he'll give you something great. He always does. But that was a great assignment to give him, because yeah, you hear it the first time. It's played, I suppose, 3 times in the film. The first time is the setup, right? Here's the thing. If this ever happens, and then very quickly in the second act, you hear it and you go, oh shit, we don't want to be hearing this. And that's when Regina comes to rescue Willa. And it isn't again until, you know, our heroes find each other.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you watched it for the first time, when Paul played the film to you the first time? Was it how you remembered, or was it kind of, were you able to remove yourself from it slightly, or?
It's interesting because it takes a while to separate yourself. It's funny, when you're an actor, you see a room and you know what's behind a door, you know what's outside of that door, and it's hard to make that detachment. But I knew as soon as I saw it that this was something special. I really did, and I think I told Paul immediately. Of course, there were sequences that were a little long that needed to be cut down, you know, and there were tiny, you know, we talked about tiny little moments, little hints of some of the characters maybe coming back. Maybe this is too short, maybe this is too long. But as a whole, I felt that he did. I don't dare I say, I felt he made a masterpiece as soon as I saw it.
I hope this is the first of many films that you work on together.
I do too.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Paul Thomas Anderson,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a safe journey home. Thank you.